All right. I think that we are live. It says live in the top left. We are having technical difficulties. Lou Rock called it. We're actually having personnel difficulties. We're having personnel. The guy that was supposed to come on with me, DPZ, he is not joined yet. So he also has 4 kids like I do. And so we will give John kind of or not John, we'll give DPZ a little bit of a break. Hopefully it's not anything crazy going on at the house. Hopefully the house isn't on fire or anything, but really thankful for the Hobby Palooza folks inviting me back on for another year. This is going to be fun. Hopefully we've got some good chat stuff to kind of dive into a little bit. But yeah, we're just kind of improvising. Didn't exactly have a game plan tonight. So here we go. Yes. Oh, and also, Mike, I am not linked up. I'm not hardwired in. So this is gonna be an interesting 50 minutes. I couldn't go downstairs because we're doing big family dinner Sunday night. So we will see. We will see. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Am I muted? Hopefully, I'm good. Is the band refusing to come on? It might be like that. It might be that people are just like, you know what? Screw it. Absolutely. So actually, John is gracious enough. He is going to come on and hang out with me for a few minutes. He's going to come on. We're just going to talk hobby stuff. I actually have not been on with John myself before. So, and I've watched you for a long time, John. So this is cool.
Actually, are you watching me through the curtains, or are you watching me on the internet?
Yeah, I've been outside your house for years. You just never noticed. Thank God.
Awesome. Gotta clean my windows more, I guess, right?
But yeah, man, you've been in the hobby for what, like 2 or 3 years? I think you
said.
Yeah,
I just started. I was attracted by shiny things, and here I am. And actually, it's interesting because they were talking on the last. Alex was talking about hoarders. I guess I'm considered a hoarder because I have, like, right over there about 200 or 300,000 duplicates. So I'm officially a hoarder, I guess, according to Hobby Palooza.
I've seen that side. Don't you sometimes have that on the background when you're on YouTube? Kind of that other.
Yeah, this is kind of my.
Okay.
Those are my duplicates right there. And this is my. There's a lot of chatter on Twitter about having a card room, and with 4 kids, it's probably an impossibility at this stage. But I'm lucky that I do have a card room. So
now I can't remember if I've heard you talk about this, but are you a dealer as well, or are you just strictly collecting cards? Like, do you buy, sell, or is it you just collecting?
Yeah, so I sell only my duplicates for the most part. So what that means is if I buy cards, a collection or stuff off Facebook Marketplace, if it's got hockey cards, if it's got basketball cards, football cards, baseball cards, and I don't have it, it goes into my collection. If not, I sell it on eBay or give it to people who would appreciate it. I have a lot of friends in the hobby, so I can send them stuff that they may appreciate. So,
Are you more of a player collector, set collector, or how do you normally do it?
I collect everything, right? I'm from Philadelphia, grew up with some great Phillies teams, some great Eagles teams, but I don't really collect my favorite teams. I'm a big Manchester City fan, soccer, and I don't collect soccer cards. I just collect. I'm like my friend Dean Gerhardt says, I collect it all. I just try to collect everything I can. So, how about you? What do you have other than the 3 cards over your right shoulder?
I've got I've got a huge variety. Actually, my background just kind of shows that. So this card that's over here, if I can get my finger right, is an Abraham Lincoln card from like 1880 or something. That I thought they were cool. I saw a handful of them on eBay, and it was basically like a set, and there was John Adams and some of these other cards, and they were really inexpensive, and it was just it was odd because I was thinking, man, they're just so old. Of course, they're kind of tattered and stuff, but just thought it would be cool to snag some of those. And then the card right here is it's one of those custom cards. Hold on, I'll grab it. So it's like 84 tops, like that Don Mattingly, rookie, but it's Homer Simpson, and it's one of these custom cards where it's kind of 3-dimensional. Donnie B Collectibles made me a couple of these. I'm a big Simpsons fan. And then, so I would say that I'm big into, I'm mainly a football card collector. I've got some basketball cards, baseball cards, some, but none of the modern or ultra modern baseball stuff. The
Right.
baseball stuff I've got is like, this is an example, Greg Maddux, where it's the rookie card with the in-person auto, and it's a 10-10. I think that
Right.
stuff is kind of cool because I feel like the Mantles and the Willie Mays of the world, and those guys are, they're kind of this upper echelon of player that's always talked about. But there's some great '90s guys like Greg Maddux, or like Randy Johnson that I remember
Right.
watching, and they're so dominant. And but of course, it's during the overprinted era, So I like collecting those guys and some of their autograph cards. And then I've also got Stranger Things cards. I've got a big Stranger Things card collection because my kids are all into the show with me. So that's kind of like, my kids don't, if I get a sports card in the mail, they're like, "Oh, that's cool, Dad." But then when I get a Stranger Things card, they're like, "Okay, now you're talking my language. Let's take a look at this a little bit
Right.
closer."
Do
So
you ever go to like Comic Cons or stuff like that? You ever cross over into that stuff with the kids,
yeah, I
attending
do
those
have.
shows?
Yeah, my youngest son collects Pokemon cards. He's really the only card collector so far. So he's into Pokemon. He's 8. But we also, I collect graded video games and graded comic books as well. So it's really an 80s, 90s nostalgia, flow that I'm on, So
All right.
I've got original NES like black box games, and then I've also got, comics from that era as well. And some of the Silver Age stuff if you go back to the 60s and 70s. So it's
Are
a
you
it's a
grading
broad.
your video games yet? Have you graded your video? Takes up a lot of room, huh? If you do
Yeah,
that.
I do. So I do buy graded games, but I don't have, 100 of them or anything. I've probably got 20, 25 graded games, and they're very specific for, like Super Mario Brothers or like the original Mario Brothers games. I've got some
Right.
Atari games, so it's funny because vintage video games are just Atari and NES, which is kind of fun. It makes me feel old. It's like when you think of vintage
Right.
baseball, that goes back 100 plus years. With video games, it's literally like 1980,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 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 I guess somebody could collect the Pong. I guess it's not really a game. It was just the whole console was the Pong game, right? There were no other games. So
yeah.
yeah, you get your Pong because that's where I was introduced to video games, probably the mid '70s. My uncle had a TV set that was built into a piece of furniture that had Pong attached to it. So that was high tech back then.
What is your thought on just kind of baseball card? Because you're obviously a heavy baseball card collector. What do you feel like? How do you feel about the direction of baseball cards with the way that the ultra modern cards are done with parallels and things like that? Do you get into that as well, or are you mainly a vintage baseball card collector?
Yeah, I have uh, stuff all the way up. I just on my show yesterday on the Hobby Palooza, we opened up the 2023 Heritage. So I have 2023 Heritage, probably about three or four hundred of those so far. The inserts, all that stuff, and I have the 2023 Series One. Haven't gotten around to Series Two. I still like opening packs. I don't really follow the game very closely. I still love cards. Obviously, I love archives and stuff like that. I love when the old players are in there and stuff like that. I think I'm a little I'm a little sick of the paninification of the hobby where everything had 20, 30 parallels to it. I don't think that there was a lot of creativity to that.
Yeah,
Tops back in the day, uh, they put out larger cards. They put out coins. They would put out stamps. They would put out. I mean, there's even Super Balls that have players in them from 1970, I think. So I like the creativity and the originality of that. I don't like the lack of creativity of a purple parallel or a red parallel or whatever. So that's just me because as deep as it got in the '80s was essentially an update set or puzzle pieces or stickers, right? But
yeah.
I just think there's too much, which leads to a yeah less of a love affair with the actual cards themselves.
Have you heard about this? It's kind of outside the box a little bit, but Wizards of the Coast that makes Magic the Gathering cards, they released this Lord of the Rings set. Did you hear about this? Where
No, I haven't.
so there's a one of one Ring of Power card. And there's obviously it's a one of one, but instead of it like sports cards where now you've got like 1,000 different one of ones, this is actually a one of one to where there's it's like the one ring to rule them all type thing card. And there's a company in Spain that has a $2 million bounty on this card. So now you've got
Right.
what would have been probably a semi-popular set with people that follow that franchise. Now all of a sudden you have the speculators and the chasers, are looking at
Right.
it, and the hobby box price is moving up, which is really kind of it's just kind of an interesting thing, because sports cards have kind of they've obviously done that, but they've kind of gone too far. It's almost like they've just taken that, Trevor Lawrence has what, 1,000 one-of-one rookie cards or something. But with that particular set, it's interesting because there's all this, crazy anticipation trying to find this card. And it's like, if sports cards would just dial it back a little bit, I don't know if they can put the genie back in the bottle with all the parallels, but if they would pull back, on all the parallels and the one-of-ones, then I just feel like there's it's just diluted so much now, and it only seems to get worse. It seems like every year it's just more. It's not like saying, like, what, we hit a good spot, let's not do any more. It's like every year it's like up it, more parallels. It's crazy.
So one of the things that I wrestle with that is, and I know there's a reason, I know there's bounties, but one of the things I wrestle with is how many of these one-of-ones will never be open. I don't know in the TCG market whether they hoard their unopened stuff. I know it's not as prevalent now in sports as it was a few years ago, but people put unopened stuff on their shelves to leave indefinitely. These one-of-ones, they are one of, even, of fives. We don't know how many of those actually ever really hit the market or see daylight, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of I think that's one of the problems. You need to have bounties, and I'm wondering who's behind the bounties. Truthfully, they just want people to open this product and build hype and stuff like that. It's kind of tough, A one-of-one never sees the light of day.
Because like with this card that I showed you, the Stranger Things card, one thing that I do like about these, the demand obviously is nowhere near Stranger Things as there is, for sports cards. But
Right.
like, this set is Series 1 that came out in 2018, and it's very simple. It's greens out of 50, there's purple out of 25, blue out of 10, and there's a gold one-of-one somewhere for each character. So it's kind of nice because there's chase cards, but it's not, there's not that many of them. There's not that many sets. And it does kind of feel like I do understand when collectors are like, oh man, I remember 10 years ago when you could get these for a lot less money. This is kind of similar where, it's like there's just not that many people chasing it. So when they do pop up, they do sell for decent money, but it's nothing like what you would see on the sports card side. So it's almost like, something that hasn't been touched yet, which is kind of nice, on that front.
Yeah, it's interesting because those non-sports, I mean, you talk about 5 to 10 million people watching an episode a week, right? And I would imagine they have more of an overseas market than maybe our American sports cards do, which is a great introduction to the collecting phenomenon as a whole, because I always say that the reason soccer cards aren't huge in the world is because most of the kids that play soccer can't afford sneakers, let alone, a $2 or $3 pack of cards. So maybe this will help spur a little bit more of the international market overall for cards, perhaps.
It's interesting you say that too, because I've had to, some of these chase cards I've had to buy from the UK, or I've seen them. There's some that have popped up in Japan. So you're right. I mean, it is kind of a there's a global hunt for them, because it was people that were watching the show are global. So it's kind of an interesting. It's not to say that doesn't happen with other with baseball cards, but typically you can find the stuff in North America for the most.
Yeah, I've traveled overseas a lot, and I've been to China, where once they hear you speak, the first thing they say is, "Oh, Kobe Bryant." I was actually with my son in China, and it was hilarious because once we said hello, "Oh, Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant." Baseball, I think, is still king in the collecting here just because of the long history of it. But overseas, I don't even know if the Koreans or the Japanese, really, who are crazy about baseball, even collect American cards. Obviously Shohei Ohtani's a big deal, but basketball cards are probably bigger overseas. And I would imagine, most a lot of like Japan has always had a fascination with American culture. I think they have
Yeah.
the culture fascination more than they do a sports fascination with what we do. It's what we do over here. So
What's your take? I know, you always hear kind of baseball is a dying sport. The attendance is down over the last 10 years. But when you look at baseball cards, the demand for baseball cards and vintage cards hasn't changed at all. If anything, it's gone up. So what's your take on that stuff?
yeah, that's interesting, right? Because I spend very little time watching baseball, and people my age, I'm 55. Uh, there's a lot of diehard baseball fans out there, which is great. But listen, you can't compete with the NFL, right? It's the biggest thing. NFL has so much going for it, and I always say that what the NFL has that baseball and even hockey and basketball don't have is the fact that the best marketing campaign that ever existed for a sporting uh, league is fantasy football, right? 16 weeks, you're done. 17 weeks, whatever. Now you're done. It's easy. Everybody has a week to recover. Like it's built in there, and I think football will be king forever because of stuff like that. People love to, even people that don't like football, love to play fantasy football and stuff like that. They like Super Bowl pools and Super Bowl parties. So baseball, I think, I joke that it's turned into a way to deliver. It's basically turned into they're just bars, glorified bars. Because I've been to a couple baseball games this year, and I imagine a lot of that revenue is driven by off the field income, like merchandise. I went to Anaheim Angels game or whatever they're called, and more people it seemed were in the gift stores or the pro shops and we're out in the stands.
Hmm.
Buying Otani shirts and stuff like that. So attendance is down. Baseball has fragmented media delivery systems, which is horrible. NFL is just everything streamlined. There's a lot of faults with the NFL, but man, they do things right with sharing revenue
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it's hard to tell. A lot of people love their baseball, but when I was a kid, everybody played Little League. And then nowadays there's lacrosse and soccer and baseball, obviously, but people seem to be have more interests, or kids have more interests outside of baseball now. So maybe it's just one of those things that won't die, Dustin. Baseball just will
I
just
don't
keep
think it
going
will.
forever.
Yeah, I don't think that it will. Well, it also feels like too a lot of baseball card collectors are also, they're historians too. It's a
Yeah,
part of American history. It's rooted into American history,
yeah,
so
yeah,
and
yeah.
even with the NFL being so popular, football cards are nowhere near as popular as baseball cards, which you would
Yeah.
think that shouldn't be the way it is, but that is the way it is.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, basketball was able to capture a very brief period in time where they had everything. They were the only league playing at one point, I think, and around COVID and stuff like that. So, but we've seen that kind of come and go. I guess basketball isn't too or as hyped up as it was 3 years ago. That's for sure. I mean, hockey's just going to hockey. We could talk about hockey, but hockey's just going to do their thing off,
Yeah.
wherever they're going to go. But yeah, football's tough. Football's driven by rookie quarterbacks, it seems, and there haven't been that many of them. Even a guy like Jalen Hurts, who's only been around for 3 or 4 years, is who's at the top of the game. It's like he's doing well in the card market, but he's yeah, he's a straight up rock star, but he's not. That's not going to be reflected in his value. We have a guest that's going to join us here, okay?
All right.
And I
Throw it
think,
all
hey, Jeremy, I said the H word, and this guy popped up in
in.
the green room, man.
We put the bat signal out. Jeremy Lee pops in.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
going on?
yeah. I sorry, I was watching over there and now I'm hearing it twice. I saw the link. I said join, so I thought, okay, I'll jump on. And I
This
heard you
is
say
jazz.
hockey, so
Yeah, this is Hobby Palooza Jazz right now. There's no everybody does 8 bars.
well, I
Whatever
was,
you want.
I was really thinking when you guys were talking about, Dustin saying like, they're saying baseball is a dying sport, but I always come back to thinking things are cyclical and it might just take, like something to happen. Shohei Ohtani is all the rage. Ellie De La Cruz is coming in. He's getting a lot of attention. Like, what do you guys think? Does it only take one really exciting player to maybe bring interest back? They've shortened the games this season. What might it take for it not to be a dying sport?
I think baseball prospecting will never end. It's kind of like they have such a great minor league system, and you see it. I mean, there's so many guys. It's almost like fantasy football for baseball fans. I feel like, the baseball prospect cards. It just seems like baseball fans just love doing the prospecting stuff, and one of them will be the next Mike Trout, or whatever. That's always the hope. But I could see the fun in it for sure. But I don't know. What do you think, John?
Hey, it's getting crowded in here,
huh? We sent the link out to my whole family too, so if my grandparents don't be alarmed.
See, I think this year is obviously a pivotal year because of the, you can use the word tinkering, but there's a lot of these rule changes, which some are great, but it's like anything, if you think too much, if you overthink something too much, you run the risk of pushing it off in a different direction. So I think that's something we need to be. I'm not a fan of launch angles or exit velocities or stuff like that. I'm a fan of like Nolan Ryan going out there and throwing 253 pitches in 13 innings. So
yeah,
the game's changed. I have to adapt to the game, obviously, but like I think you can overthink it as well. So baseball has to consider that for sure. What do you think, Theo?
How you guys doing? Thanks for the open invite.
Dustin's buying it. It's an open bar right now. And Dustin,
well, yeah, we showed up and DPZ, my guy was supposed to log. I haven't heard from him, so I hope he's okay. So thanks for jumping in, guys. We appreciate it.
No problem. I got invited to an earlier one, and it was my daughter's birthday, so I kind of felt like I got left out a little bit. So it's kind of cool to be able to jump on. So thanks, guys.
What do you think about baseball, modern baseball? Where are we at? We on a crossroads here with the game.
Oh, were you talking to me or?
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that the new rules they put in with the pitch clock is definitely helping make the games faster. They're definitely more consumable for the younger generation, I would say. I think football is going to be king in America, forever now. I just think with fantasy football and everything like that, with the betting coming in, I don't know any of my friends who bet on baseball. It's just not fun to bet on. It's not easy to bet on. Every one of my friends bets on football on their device because in PA, we're allowed to gamble on devices with DraftKings and stuff. So I just think when you have gambling at play, fantasy football at play, the game of football is just, I just think it's America's sport right now. As far as can baseball be number two, I don't think so. I think basketball is going to stay number two, and I think baseball needs to at least stay at number three. And I think they need to learn how to market their stars. Ohtani obviously is huge for them right now. Mike Trout, I mean, most people, if they saw him in the grocery store, would they, I know us in this room would know who it was, but would most people know who Mike Trout was? You know what I mean? So I just think they have a hard time marketing their best players personally. So
does baseball need more of like these bad boys? Like what was that movie Major League? Like, do we need more like some of these guys that are? But I'm trying to think of who are these pitchers like?
Remember John Rocker for the
Braves?
Yes. Like obviously he's not a good person in general, but I thought back and I'm like, why isn't any closer like this persona anymore? Where like the music comes on and it's must-see TV to watch the guy. Like it doesn't even.
It's interesting. I found we didn't mention the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's finally appear to have died, right? And I have a theory that I don't know whether it's like what it's like in hockey, Jeremy. I assume basketball and football, you can't fail as an owner in sports anymore. I don't know whether it's the same in baseball, but Oakland went for years drawing 8,000 people a game, and apparently they weren't bleeding money. It's these owners can't seem to lose money at all.
Are they subsidized by the other teams? like the smaller markets.
Yes.
Yeah. Payroll tax, right?
That's how the Pirates make all their money from the Yankees.
Okay.
And then we give the Yankees our good players in trades. It's a fair trade-off.
What's it like in hockey, Jeremy? Are they all financially stable across the board?
Yeah, they are. I mean, the Ottawa Senators just sold for $950 million, and I would assume they're one of the least valuable franchises in the whole NHL. The Winnipeg franchise, which is probably the second lowest valued because these are small market Canadian teams, is owned by, I think, the second or third wealthiest owner in the world in professional sports. So I think the franchises are in good condition financially. The expansion teams that have come in the last 6 years, one of them just won the Stanley Cup. The Vegas Golden Knights, a Seattle Kraken, made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs this season in their second year. So the teams are doing fine, but we have the same problem that it sounds like what you guys are saying that baseball has, which is really marketing these players, especially in the US, south of the Canadian border. That's where there's a big challenge in getting these players. We have in hockey, we have some really great personalities, but we're not marketing. Alex Ovechkin, a great personality. And then you got Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, who are two of the biggest stars in the league for the last 20 years. And they don't have great personalities, either of them. They're pretty subdued, calm guys. So if the NHL were to work harder on marketing those guys, bringing out the best of them, I think we'd see more growth south of the border because, listen, I'm biased, of course, but hockey is a really exciting sport to watch. So I think there's potential there down the road if they can market it properly.
Isn't Phoenix playing in like a 4,000 seat arena for a few years?
I think so. I think I've gotten tired of keeping up with what's going on with that franchise. Bettman, the commissioner, just won't let them leave. They've been struggling for 20 years down there.
Is Vegas winning the cup? Is that good for hockey in your opinion, Jeremy? Because it's a new like they never won, right? Their first time.
They're 6 years old. They never won. I do think it's good for hockey because Vegas is Vegas. I mean, from a gambling perspective, it's Las Vegas. I think that brings a lot of attention to the NHL in Vegas and among all the people that come there, at least around Stanley Cup playoff times. There's not. There wasn't any big stars on that team though that won the cup this year. So from a hobby perspective, it's not like it's going to help anything. I was thinking that if Edmonton would win the Stanley Cup, that would have been really good because that's where McDavid plays. Toronto's got 3 or 4 big superstars. That would have been good for the hobby. Of course, if the Rangers in New York would win, but Vegas winning, I don't think it helped the hobby. But I do think it's good for the NHL overall in the US.
Just to answer Chuck here, Dustin, what happened to your off-center sidekick? You're talking about Brad. So Brad retired from cards in December, but he is dating models in Los Angeles. So he's doing okay. He's good. I texted with him just the other day. So Brad might not be a long-term card guy, but he's a good guy overall.
Talking about Vegas though, guys, NBA is about to put a team in Vegas and
are they?
LeBron James wants to own the team, and I think it's going to go that direction, to be honest with you. And I could see him owning the team and maybe playing his last season there to get the hype up the team a lot. So that would be really interesting.
Is there a timeline on when that team is going to start?
I think within 2 years is what I've heard. I believe the hockey arena can be used for NBA, so they don't need an arena. So it's just a matter of a licensing, to get that other team to pay the other owners, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I was always curious. The Knights were born there, and they like to say that. I always thought the Raiders or the A's would go in there, and it would essentially be out of town fans populating the stands and people that are comp guests at casinos and stuff like that. But I've never been to a Raiders game since they moved there, but I'm wondering what the atmosphere for them is and what it will be for the A's, because I just, people probably already have their teams that they root for there in Vegas.
Makes sense to me. I mean, the one thing you think about the Florida team, and just sticking on the NHL for a second, you think about the Florida teams, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the the Florida Panthers. There's so many Canadian transplants and snowbirds that go down there. So those arenas are, to the extent that they are filled up, I think, by a lot of Canadian transplants. In Vegas, I mean, there's nothing like going to Vegas to watch your team play, the Vegas Golden Knights, because I've never been. I say there's nothing like it. That's what I've heard. I haven't been yet, but what I also understand is that the game production, the in-game entertainment and production at the Vegas Golden Knights game is second to none in the whole NHL. So, the team is going to have, there are Vegas Golden Knights fans that are Vegas residents, but that arena building will never have a problem selling out because people are always there. How many tourists are in Vegas at any given time? Like millions, and a lot of them are coming from Canada.
Yeah,
we do. I did hear from DPZ Dennis. He broke his foot, but he's going to join anyway. I told him to join from the hospital. So he said he just got out of the doctor. But he's going to try and join. So if he does pop in, allow him onto the stream, please.
Yeah, for sure, man.
If anything, it'll be a great story because he was supposed to join up and then he just said, "Hey, I broke my foot," but he's joining. So, all right, let's see what's going on.
So Pittsburgh, the Pirates had a great spring. What's the plan from here on out post All-Star game? Back to quadruple A?
Yeah, so I'm sure you heard we brought up our number 3 prospect, Henry Davis, which he's actually big in the hobby because he was the number 1 overall pick like 2 years ago. And a lot of the card packs and stuff had his face on them because he was the number 1 pick. So he's doing okay so far, but he's not ready to play catcher. They have him in right field. So it's pretty much a disaster there. We brought up our number 1 overall pick from 3 years ago, and he's horrible. He hit like 220 in AAA, and we brought him up anyways. And the big news going on right now is we have the number 1 overall pick in the draft coming up. And LSU has a player. His name's Cruz. He batted like 480 this year. He's supposed to be the best prospect since Bryce Harper. So we'll see if the Pirates pirate and we pass on him for somebody who will take less money. So we're waiting to see what happens in the draft. That's basically it.
Well, you guys had a brief little bit of hope, huh? Didn't you, in April and May?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. As soon as we re-signed our best player, he's not been playing very good. So,
how long does Sidney Crosby go for? Does he have any plans?
That's a great question. I don't know. What, 2 more years? We got the hockey guy in here, so maybe he can answer. I don't know.
He started when he was 18, right?
Yeah, in 2005-06. So he's what is he, 35 now? I mean, I don't know. He seems to have some miles left on him. I just wonder if he's the kind of player that is going to play until he can't play anymore, or if he's going to try and, kind of not have some really bad seasons and then retire so he can, just salvage. I don't want to say salvage his legacy, but not have any negative sort of impact to his legacy because he stuck around longer than he should have when he wasn't as good. Right. So, but he's got at least 2 more years, I would think, of productive playing left. At least he's in great shape, and he's one of the best of all time.
Hey, Jeremy, put your ear to the ground here for me in Canada. A lot of people like myself and maybe Mangini right there would like to see a team back in Montreal. You think that's going to happen?
Do you mean Quebec City?
Well, no, I'm talking about baseball.
Sorry, baseball. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Expos went to Washington, right?
Well, it was a weird swap, right? They swapped franchises with Florida. The league took over the Montreal, and they gave the Florida Marlins to the Montreal owner, Jeffrey Loria. So, yeah, anyway, sorry I interrupted, but.
Well, I mean, listen, there are so many Montreal Expo fans in Canada to this day. You can go out anywhere. I mean, and I live, 2,000 miles from Montreal, and I can go to the shopping center and I'll see at least a couple of people with a Montreal Expos hat on their head to this day. And how long has it been since they moved to become the Washington Nationals? It's several. I believe that's where they went. Did they not? And it's been several years now. So
yeah, those 80s unis were the best. I remember getting like
now the Marlins. Okay, so yeah. All right.
Yeah, it was a weird swap. It was like a wife swap thing, like where I'll take your house, but you take my wife and take her to Florida or something. It was very bizarre, but the owner ended up in Florida and the team ended up in DC, though, I think.
Okay, well, I don't know. They left for a reason, and I don't know if going back is the best thing, but I think Canadians in general would like to see it. I mean, when the Blue Jays make it into the playoffs, every city, town in Canada is tuned in and hoping for the Blue Jays. So they truly are. They probably have the biggest fan base of any of any Major League Baseball team, maybe outside of the Yankees, who have fans all over the world, I guess. But the Blue Jays probably have, if not the first, if not the second biggest fan base in baseball, because there's 40 million Canadians, and Canada just hit 40 million in population, I think, within the last month. Anyway, 40 million people, at least 18 years old of age, or whatever, 10 years old and over, who are Blue Jay fans. So there would be room for another team here, whether it would be in Montreal or Vancouver. Those would probably be the two most logical destinations.
Yeah, when Toronto Raptors won the championship, that was insane.
Huge.
Like,
it was huge.
It was crazy. So I could see what you're saying as far as Toronto goes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Raptors are similar to the Blue Jays. It's Canada's team. We used to have the Vancouver Grizzlies, but no longer do, and they didn't last very long. I don't think they were Brian Big Country Reeves was their best. Sharif Sharif Abdur-Rahim was there as well, I think, but not a team that left a legacy, whereas the Montreal Expos did leave quite the legacy. So but yeah, the Raptors are Canada's team, and it would be great. It would be awesome to get another NBA team up here, just with how big the NBA is and how exciting that, it's a fast-paced game like hockey, back and forth the whole time. So I'd love to see another team up here.
Hey, I'm going to bring on the GIMP, and I'm going to duck out. You guys got 10 minutes.
All right, John. Yeah, we're going to need at least 10 just to get this story.
All right, take care.
Hey, John, nice to see you. I want to say hi to Theo. I don't think we've met before, Theo, but good to see you, meet you. And I'll say hi to Dennis, and I'll take off as well.
All right, guys. Good luck.
All right, thanks. Dennis, are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, gentlemen.
Well, first off,
I broke my foot.
How did it happen? Or do you not want to say?
It was a softball injury, a men's softball injury. So, yeah, and I've been in the doctor's office getting X-rayed and all the stuff. I didn't have my phone next to me. It kind of happened, and everything was kind of a crazy blur. So, sorry I didn't get ahead of it and let you guys all know, but I figured with the hobby, we can kind of just roll with stuff. So here I am. I'm still here on painkillers and in a lot of pain, but I'm still here.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, thanks for making it happen. What did your wife say? Like, hey, cancel. And you're like, no, we can't cancel.
I said, I can still make it happen. These guys are great. These are good. These are good people, and they'll be okay with it. There's nothing, more important than, your health. So just take care of business. And so I was kind of cutting it close, but yeah.
So were you playing second? Were you playing second and someone like slid in and hit, like knocked into you?
I was playing catcher and I had a guy slide in and take my foot out. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's okay. It is what it is. You just kind of roll with it. And it's what happens when 40-year-old guys want to play competitive sports and have fun with it. And you play a tournament and everybody's all amped up. A guy wants to win, or, you go for it, and that's what happens. So
I was in a 35+ basketball league, and it was a similar story. It was like guys just going down every week with something. And finally and then the pandemic hit and I had to quit, but it's probably for the best. It was just a matter of time before like both ACLs popped in the same play type thing.
Yeah. Did you bring doctor's notice as excused absence? See, actually, it's so funny. The battery, Carlisle Rude. It's funny because they asked me, do you need a doctor's note? I'm like, well, I report to the CEO, so I don't need a doctor's note. I don't really know why I would need one. I'm just going to be in a big boot and all that stuff. But yeah, it was kind of interesting.
I don't know, Dennis. I mean, if you think about professional athletes, they play for their teams that pay them. But in the off season, a lot of contracts say they can't go play certain sports. You collaborate with me, you collaborate with Dustin. I don't think it was in your contract that you were allowed to be playing softball. So we're gonna have to check that and contact our legal representation here.
Yeah, we're going to have a separate meeting later.
Yeah, I guess I'm in trouble. I guess I've been caught. Like they say, what was that? I've been watching this video or this like audio book on the dynasty of the New England Patriots, and Drew Bledsoe had he's mentioned something to Robert Kraft after his first couple of years about how he loved to go helicopter skiing with his dad, and so they actually wrote in a clause in the contract that said he cannot do anything extreme. So that definitely happens in sports. They write in clauses like that. Yeah, all these people are coming in like, yeah, I was done at 35. It's good exercise. Us guys have a great time. I have a good group of boys, and we have a really good time doing it. So it is what it is. It's kind of part of it. There's a few guys that get injured, and mine's a very minor. It's not like I'm going to be out for a while. It's a minor fact. I'm probably blowing time more than it should be, but yeah.
So you're on the 15-day DL or what?
The 60 I'm 15-day DL. I'm actually the coach. In men's softball, there's a guy that has to kind of corral the chickens, right? It's like herding cats. You got all these guys that are in their 40s thinking they're still in their 20s. So I'm the coach and the manager of the team. So I still have to come up with a lineup for tomorrow for the next game, and So
you're like Gil Hodges. I hope that this softball league allows like beer drinking, or else you should not.
No, it doesn't. There's no beer drinking at all. There's no beer consumed, no alcohol. It was just an old-fashioned competitive energy. So anyway.
So speaking of that, we've got about 8 minutes, and mainly baseball card collectors. Really, a lot of the channels that are watching, and then the ones that I've seen, kind of have already done it. And you are a huge Griffey Jr. collector.
Absolutely.
So walk us through. We've got a little bit of time. Can you just kind of talk us through your kind of, I guess, what your thought was getting back into the hobby with that, and then how it's maybe evolved, over with your Griffey collection? Did you come in with Griffey on the brain, or did that evolve, as you were getting back in?
Great question, Dustin. Yeah, when I first came back in, like my first thought was I'd love to own a perfect copy of the '89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. That was kind of the card that meant something to us in my generation, as collecting.
And Dennis is in Seattle too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm in Seattle. I'm a Pacific Northwest kid. I'm from Seattle, born and raised, not in Seattle, but north of Seattle. But when you're in the PNW, you kind of adopt Seattle as your town. Everybody were Griffey fans, and so we obviously had a big, infatuation with Griffey. He was our guy, and he still is our guy. And Julio is becoming somebody, but Griffey was. I felt like he transcended the sport. I don't think there's a lot of athletes like Wayne Gretzky in hockey, because I'm a big hockey fan too. He transcended the sport. You knew who Wayne Gretzky was, even if he didn't play hockey. You just knew who he was. Right. So Griffey was kind of that guy who transcended baseball. And that was hard to do because baseball was still popular, but basketball, Michael Jordan, he had all this stuff coming out with Michael Jordan. And like basketball was kind of becoming a thing. And Griffey was kind of holding it together for baseball. So when I came back in, I wanted to own a perfect copy of an '89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. I had no idea that 5 million of them have been printed, and so many of them have been graded. I didn't know the grading structure, the whole landscape there. So I learned from a friend who brought me into the space. Like, here's what you look at. BGS was important back in the day. Now PSA seems to lead the pack. PSA 10's your top, that's what you want to target. There's a lot of these cards, so that's the number. That's like the top card you want to go for. And then from there, I just kind of went and learned. I started watching Dustin. I started watching the Luca Tiger Braun, Jeremy Lee, all these guys, and kind of getting into the hobby again and learning about stuff. And over time, I was introduced to like people like Joey Peapod and different people that are really into the Griffey community, and knew the cards that mattered. And a lot of those cards like sort of crossed over from basketball to baseball, right? your credentials, your all these different types, the refractor, atomic refractors, the important cards that mattered in basketball kind of mattered in baseball too, but people weren't really paying attention to them. So I started focusing my energy on Griffey, and I sold everything I had and just went, you know what, I'm going to go all out on Griffey, and that's what I'm going to do.
And when he says that, he means he sold his house, all of his investments, everything, and went right into Griffey cards. No.
Yeah. Jeremy told me to borrow against my cards, to buy a bunch of Griffey cards, because he said that was a great way to go about it. But no, I'm just kidding. No, I was careful about it, but I tried to target the cards that mattered in his collector base, because I felt like if you're going to go all in on a player, you got to focus in on the cards that matter for that demographic, matter for that collector base, because that's what matters.
My question is, I'm a Clemente collector, and I think I'm about at 60 playing days Clemente cards. But do you collect any type of duplicates, or do you avoid duplicates?
I avoid duplicates, to be honest, Theo. Like I like, because I feel like I'm going to try to go for the highest grade possible of the most important cards for Ken Griffey Jr. I can possibly afford.
What are your favorite couple, Dennis? Like, are there a couple that are your favorites that you can? You can name off if you want to share. You don't have to.
No, absolutely. I have one. I brought them all here. I had them. They're all sitting here waiting for me. I just run in here. No, I didn't run. I guarantee you that.
You crawled into the office.
I just kind of hobbled in here. Yeah. This is one. This is the established. This is out of 100. This is a PSA 10 established, a pop 4. So it has 2 different levels of scarcity.
Oh, wow.
It's a very popular card. You can kind of see, there you go, out of 100, 35 out of 100. I bought this from Joey. And what's cool about this card is, it's one of the more popular, it's Fleur Mystique, 1999. So 96 through 99 are very important years for Griffey. But what's cool about this is that it's a PSA 10 on top of being out of 100. So it kind of builds in. And Jeremy and I talked about this on a couple of our shows. You build in scarcity in a sense, or you build in collectability with, okay, it's a PSA 10 pop 4, but it's out of 100, and it's a popular card that a lot of people like. So,
I have to imagine the surfaces on those have to get beat up, and the edge, like everything's got to show up on a card like that. To have a 10 is awesome.
Yeah. And I lucked out because I know Joey. I don't know if I'd ever get that card. And that's the thing too. We talked about it was like, okay, if you're going to buy some of these cards, I went through my collection. I know a lot of people have talked about this, and Jeremy and I have talked about this a lot too. You go through your collection, you go, okay, if I were to sell this card, would I ever be able to get it back? Can I get the card back if I sell it?
Yeah.
Whether it be in the grade or just the card itself. Would I be able to get it back? And I'm going to show you another card, not a popular card. Nobody even knows about this card. I don't think I would get it back. And here's why. This is the only graded version of this card. It's out of 10. It's kind of hard to see. You got to get really close. You can see it's number 2 out of 10.
Oh yeah, I see it on the bottom right. Yes.
There? And see,
serial number 2 out of 10. That's interesting.
So this was a redemption card. So this card you pulled out of Pacific Invincible. So who the heck knows what that is, right? Well, it's based out of Linwood, where I'm from. And you get a 11 by 15 poster, I believe. Yeah, 30. Yeah, okay. You get a 35 by 51 inch poster with this card. Wow. And then once they redeemed it, they punch a hole in it right down here. There's one other person that has this card that's been redeemed with the poster. And that's the only person we know that exists with this card. They have a punch down here. His name is Marco Bisio Jr. Dustin, we've had him on our show a few times.
Yep.
And he has the redeemed version. It's not graded, but he has the poster with this punch hold. And I have the one that's graded 7. It doesn't really matter if it's graded 7 because it's so if I sold that card, I have like 5 people that would want it. And
you never see it again.
I probably wouldn't see it again because who's going to sell it back to me? They could just name their price and, whatever, sit on it. So that's a card that I probably wouldn't let go of.
John, do we have to bump off here in a minute?
Yeah, we're running a charity here, so we have limited satellite time. But yeah, absolutely. I'm going to duck off if everybody wants to say your goodbyes. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys, check out Signatures for Soldiers. The donation PayPal is streaming there across. We're actually going to have on Off-Centered, we're going to have Tim, who runs Signatures for Soldiers. He's going to be on our next Off-Centered show as well. So there'll be more on that front. But guys, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. DPZ, thanks for coming in, even though you've got these battle wounds. We appreciate you. Jeremy and Theo, good to meet you too. Be on a stream with you. Appreciate
nice to meet you, man.
Thanks, Dustin.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Sorry about that.
We'll talk to you later.
Take care.